When we think about light pollution, we tend to think about not being able to see the stars, especially those of us who live in the city. But as a zoology student and a wildlife enthusiast, I've often wondered about how light affects animal behaviour in urban environments, especially as some places never get dark.
To find out more, I've come to meet with Ed Druitt, a Bristol-based naturalist and wildlife detective who spends many hours looking at the local fauna.
For a lot of animals, I think it probably assists them. The foxes, although they can see in very, very dark conditions and what have you, naturally like you and I, they can see better when you've got those street lamps. I think for bats in particular, though, there is concern that there are some species that actively seek out the light for looking for their food, such as moths and other insects. But then there's other species of bat which actively move away from areas where there's lighting, and so of course for those bats that could really compromise how well they're able to forage in a particular night and what have you.
Ed's observations suggest that some animals are affected more than others, but what's the scientific take on this? I met with biologist and light pollution specialist Dr. Andy Wakefield to ask his expert opinions on the issues and possible solutions.
Life has been evolving for the last 3.5 billion years under a regular cycle of day and night, light and dark, and then suddenly electric lighting comes along and it's no longer dark at night. That's going to have a big impact on animal physiology and animal behaviour. It's quite hard to suggest quite the effect that lighting is having on local populations because there's so many other drivers of population increases and decreases, but we think it's having an impact. And there's definitely an impact on a global scale too. We know that migratory birds are quite badly affected by artificial light, such as lights on oil rigs. They might not ever make it to their breeding or foraging grounds.
Are there any other particular animals that are being impacted by light pollution that we might not originally think of?
Well, we don't tend to think too much about turtles. When turtle eggs hatch on a beach, they look for clues on the horizon as to where the light is, and they tend to go towards a more sort of lit area of the open ocean than the dark silhouettes on the beach. Problem is, with street lights appearing on the beach around resorts next to turtle nesting grounds, those turtles actually go inland as opposed to out to sea, and that has kind of quite severe consequences for their survival.
So what is there that we can do to help all these animals?
So everyone can do a little bit by not using as much light, whether that's by turning off lights indoors and closing curtains so that light doesn't spill outside. People can think about whether they actually need lights in their gardens or on their porch. But I think people should kind of think bigger than that, and they should think actually about their consumption of light overall. Like, we've kind of got in this habit of it always being lit and needing light all the time. But actually we don't. It would kind of benefit ourselves and our bank balance and the community bank balance and the national bank balance if we actually used a lot less light at night.
NASA footage shows that our world is getting brighter and brighter at night, and yet we're only just starting to understand the damage this can do to wildlife.
My guess? I think science will uncover more and more creatures being adversely affected by light. So I think it's about time that we switched on to switching off.